Hi, everyone, and welcome to your exclusive first look at Xray Enterprise. We're very happy that you're joining us today to discover more about Enterprise. So let's jump right into our agenda and what you can expect from today's webinar. Xray Enterprise is the next level of native quality management. This is a way for your teams to unlock quality with scale, speed, and efficiency. With Xray Enterprise, teams are able to work faster and smarter with optimized test cases that hit 100% requirements coverage. You can also trigger automation directly from Xray with just the click of a button. You can create cross-project reports and see a full release visibility. And it comes with enterprise support with a dedicated 24/7 support queue. Imagine your teams working faster, testing less, and covering more, all while delivering the highest quality software. This is all possible with Xray Enterprise. So if you want to get started with Xray Enterprise, it is currently available for Jira Data Center and soon will be available for Jira Cloud as well. Xray Enterprise does require an active Xray Core license from version 6.3 or higher of Data Center, and users must have Xray Core and Xray Enterprise separately. The Test Case Designer feature, which we'll be telling you a little bit more about, is also available for 10 users and has an unlimited view only for all users matching your Jira size. And now I'm going to pass the word over to Helder, who's going to walk you through the full Xray Enterprise feature set.
Thank you so much for that, Tony. And hi, everyone. So I'm really excited to be here presenting this new enterprise release. And with the feature set that we are aiming to, we already have some of these features available so that you guys can already try out and you can already download Xray Enterprise from the marketplace. But let me start by saying that one of our jewels, let's call it this way, is the test case designer. So this is a new way for you to think about how to create and maintain your test sets. The remote jobs triggers a new way to trigger the jobs on your CI/CD platforms, cross-project reports, which you can now make a full view of how your system is doing right now, the enterprise support that we already mentioned, and really, really soon, the new test case versioning and the dynamic test plans that both will allow you to create even more extensive and complex test case and test plans. Okay. Now I'm going through each one of these features and explain them in more detail. So the test case designer, as I mentioned, it's a new way for you to have or to reach your 100% requirements coverage in less tests and fewer tests. Okay. So this process will compute all of your what I call workbench of tests on your ideas and create optimized tests. We eliminate the gaps in your test coverage, we find defects 2 times faster, and we enable this optimized in-sprint automation. Okay. Here we have an example of the traditional test versus the test case designer. So we will hit that 100% functional interaction every time with less tests. Okay. The next feature that I'm going to demo later on is the cross-project reports. With this, you will gain full scope of your readiness to release. Translating this is you can now add multiple projects to all your Xray native reports. In this way, you can easily access all projects, their status, and have a full release overview. The final feature that we will demonstrate today is the trigger remote jobs. With this option, you won't need to leave your Xray environment to build and to trigger all these jobs that you might have on your CI/CD platforms. With this, you will perform automation with speed and again, not needing to leave your Xray environment. This said, let's jump straight into our demonstration. Okay, let me just jump here quickly to uh, Xray project on Jira. Okay, this is a simple project that I have here. And the first option, so the first feature that I will demonstrate, it's the Xray test case designer. As soon as you have the enterprise licensing and app installed, you will see on the left this new option here, which is Test Case Designer. As soon as you press here, you will be redirected to a cloud solution that we call Test Case Designer. So here at the start of the start screen, you will see some samples. Okay, so right from the start, you can browse and see some of the examples that we have here. For example, we have here an airplane ticket reservation project. Let's just copy this project so that we can already start working on it with some sample data. Right from the start, you can see here that the system already created, or we'll have here the parameters page. Here is where we add all the variables that we want to have into our model. And as you can see, we have here the flying from, flying to, class, adults, and children parameters. What you can do here, we can add new parameters, but we also added a different bulk view. In this view, what you can do, you can quickly go here and make some changes, right? So if I want, I can copy paste from external sources. I can make some bulk changes here, find and replace, or just add some new option here. So let's add here executive. As soon as I save, the system will reflect this and you will be able to see here the new value, okay? What we can also do is, for example, we might want to extend these values that we have, okay? So for example, in terms of class, I can go into coach and create some value expansions. So let's say I want to create here some different tiers within the coach. So let's call tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. That's it. Just press create, and quickly you will see that this value itself will have now extended value. So you have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, all included on the same coach value that we had in the beginning. That's step 1, defining all the parameters. Step 2, it's defining the rules that we want to add to our model. Here, you can say, I want to have invalid constraints, so restrict parameters that we won't never be tested together, or we can add bound constraints, so values that we only want to be tested together. And to do so, really easy, you just over the parameter values that you want to add. And for example, let's create some invalid. I don't want people to fly from India um, to India. Okay, so the system is already computing all of these constraints and it's displaying here, and we can over and we'll see reflected here in red the constraint that we have created. The same way we can create the bound constraints. So for example, I want the flying to United States to be always done with at one adult. Here we can say to the system the directions that we want to use. It can be one way, the other way, or both ways. Let's select both ways, okay? System is already calculating everything and it has added these bound constraints. So we will always test flying two with one adult, okay? So these are all the possibilities that you can add in terms of constraints. You can add as many as you want, and you can add the bound constraint or the invalid constraints. Step two, in terms of rules that we can add to our models, is the forced interactions. Let's consider that I already added all the parameters that I want, but now I want to make sure that one of these interactions will always be added to your test plan, okay? So let's select one new one, and let's select, for example, I want the flying from India to always be considered. And the system has done this here. It added here this force parameter, and we can also say what is the expected outcome. For here, it's just like, okay, this will be a valid interaction. Then the forced interaction has been created. What does this mean? It means that every time that we run the model, the system will always consider this force parameter. So, step one, parameters. Step two, rules. Step three, just generating all the scenarios that will be available. And here he is. The system already created out of the 85 possibilities considering two-way interactions. The two-way interactions is considering only two parameters. Of course, that we can increase the interactions, and we can also select mixed strength. So for each of the parameters, I will say which ones will pair with the other ones. Okay. But for the sake of the demonstration, let's go back into two-way interactions. So what we can see here actually, and if we over, you will be able to see this, two-way interactions gives us 85 possible interactions. But the system is already telling us the optimized way is just by using 16 scenarios. Okay, so and this is what the system is displaying here. All the combinations that the system sees as important for you to reach a certain level of coverage. Okay. From here, what we can do is, for example, we want to freeze these scenarios. What does this mean? It means that, okay, this is the base set of the scenarios that we want, but we don't want, we always want this to be kept. If we freeze these scenarios, you have a brief explanation here, the system will add all of these scenarios as a forced interactions, meaning that, okay, we already have the one that we created before, but now we have all of them here added as a forced interactions. Just to show you what this means, I will go back into the parameters and I will add a new parameter. So let's say, let's select the meal time, okay? And vegetarian, and let's consider this one, new parameter. Okay, I've added the meal type vegetarian. And if I go back into the scenarios, what you will see is in blue are the ones that we froze before. And now he had only added here a new test for the meal type vegetarian. Okay. So again, all the blue ones are the ones that we froze, so we can now make other changes. Those frozen ones will be kept, but the system will add in gray the new ones, the new changes that we have done. That's it. So we have all the scenarios set. Now let's go back to the next step, which is the scripting. And of course, we have two options, the automated tests and the manual tests. On the automated tests, it's Gherkin-based time. So you see on the left of this component already the features that we want to test in details, and all the changes that you do to the left will be reflected as a preview on the right. Of course, that we have here IntelliSense, so you can just start typing, and the system will show you the parameters that are still available. You can make some changes, and again, they will be reflected on the right, okay? As you saw here, I just added meal, and the meal type is already here on the right. You can create as many as you want, and of course that we support Gherkin type, and we also support robot framework. Okay, so you can create as many test scripts as you want. Then we have the manual here, and the manual is based on manual steps, of course. And you see in the bottom here all the options that we have on our scenarios. And on top, you will have all the steps that you can add. Of course, that you can do all the changes, and the system will change the parameters according to the one I have selected below. So if I change to the second one, it will be to United States, and you can see here reflected. What you can also do here is to add some expected results. And on top of the expected results, you can do some validations to when that expected results will happen. So for example, for this step 2, I want to have an expected result when the meal type is vegetarian. Okay, so in this situation, we only the system will only add this expected result when the meal type is vegetarian. Okay, so green team, and that's it. We add it, and this option will only be added to the test if the meal type is vegetarian. Okay, that's done. We have the automated scripts, manual scripts. You can change, you can add as many steps as you want, and you will have your entire model ready. What are the next steps? Now let's do some analysis. Let's see first the coverage matrix. In this matrix, you will be able to see which test the system has selected to be able to achieve the 81% in this scenario for the coverage the coverage matrix. So the system has selected all these tests, and what you can do is also change back and forth, and you will see in real time which test the system will select here in blue. Of course, that you can change these colors, and here in green, I think it's better for you to understand. You can see here if I move that slider to the right, you will see that the system will start selecting more and more tests. One thing that you can notice is that some of them are blanks. Those ones are not selected due to the valid constraints that we added. Okay, so we added a few ones in the beginning of this demo, and the system is reflecting this here. So these ones are never selected to be added to the test. Okay. The same way we have the coverage graph. The coverage graph will let you know the percentage of coverage as long as you go with the amount of tests that you are selecting. So I can say if I do 12 tests, I will have 90%, 96% of test coverage. Okay, that's done. We have our model complete. It's ready now for the review. The review section is a way just for you to understand the health of your model. And if you go here into your scorecard, the system will let you know some points where the model can be improved upon. So for example, the system is telling me that I haven't added any notes, okay? So I should add some notes to let my colleagues know what is this model for. So let's go back here to notes, and I'll just select here draft version of model A. Done. And if I save this, everyone that has access to this model will receive this notification about this note that I've just added. Okay. If I go back into the scorecard, again, now it's displaying as green because again, I've added a note there. How do I share this with my colleagues? So here, what I can do is I can just go into my model and say, okay, I will want this to be shared by selecting a project. Let's call it. Let's select here project app version 1. And then I'll add the model to this project, and I already see here some of my colleagues that I've been sharing this model with. But of course, I can also add other users that are within my account. Okay. Now we have the model. we can now export to all of these options. But the main goal of the test case designer is that we have full synchronization with Xray. So we will not be exporting this. What we will do is actually synchronize now with Xray. And to do so, we have an option here for the synchronization where we can select again the interactions that we want. We want to use manual tests. Here we will define the test name rules. So let's call it webinar test A. And then you can always insert, for example, here it's the test number. Of course, you have here other options that you can add. I need to select which Jira project I want to synchronize with. So for this demo, I have actually here a webinar project. Let's select that project, and I will select, I want the manual test types to be created. And you just press synchronize. What the system is now doing is just synchronizing all of the tests from this model back into Xray project, to our Xray project on Jira. As you can see, the synchronization is done, and you have here all the results of this synchronization. Here we also add a label to all the tests that were created to be easier to find on the Jira project. Let's go back to the Jira project. If I refresh here, you will be seeing the new tests that have been created. So for example, there's the manual test here with the model that we just selected and with all the manual steps that we have selected. Okay, here you can see all of them. Then, as easy as this, all the model has been synchronized back to Xray. On top of that, what does this mean? It means that now you can add to a test plan, a test execution, and start doing your manual tests. But if you see that there was any issue, you want to make any change, you can go back into the test case designer, make all the changes that you want, and resync back into Xray. And this is the power of test case designer. You don't need to come up with the exact and perfect model. You can always make changes. And on top of that, we have a feature where you can see the revisions of this model. So all of this time I've been working on this model, the system is creating revisions. And if you want, you can copy of a revision to a new model. You can revert back to this model revision, or you can just download as CSV all the plan definition that you have created so far. So you can go up to any revision that you want on the fly, make changes, and sync back to Xray. On top of that, what we also have here, it's a better way for your teams to start working on these models. And for that, what you can do is just create a mind map, okay? Any kind of mind map that you might have, and you can create this collaboratively with your team. What you can do is on Xray Test Case Designer, you can start a new test model by selecting that mind map. Okay, it's OPML type file, and you can just say, okay, this will be my mind map model, and I just press create. As you can see, the same exact structure has been created. The system has already read from the mind map all the parameters, all the values of the parameters, and it has created a new model from that mind map. Okay, what you can also do if you do any kind of change, so if I add the same meal type parameter here and I select vegetarian and I say create, what I can also do, I can export or I can actually review all these changes that I did to the initial mind map here on the fly. So you see that I have flying from, flying to, adults, class, children, and the new meal type I've just created. Of course, that then you can also export this in image file type as SVG or actually in the same OPML file type. So you can always be collaboratively be creating a new test model based on a mind map file. Okay, perfect. This is the first feature that I have to show to you today, Test Case Designer. Let's go now to the second feature, which is the cross projects reports. So as you are well aware, we have a set of reports on Xray. And let me select here, for example, the test runs report. Let me generate. And as always, you can see here all the test runs report displayed on this report. But now with the cross project reports, what you can do is add the other projects that you have on your Jira instance, and you will see a overview of all of them within the same report. I'm just selecting a couple of projects here. I press apply, and on the fly, the system will be displaying all the test runs from those projects that I have selected being displayed here on the same report. This is an amazing new feature that we have added to Xray Enterprise, where you can see an overview of all of your reports, taking into consideration multiple projects. This is feature number two that I want to show to you guys today. Now, the third feature that I want to show actually starts on the project settings. And if I go into the project settings of our Xray project, you will see here a new option called Remote Jobs Trigger. If I go to that option, you will see the configuration page of the remote jobs. Right now, we are supporting Jenkins, CI/CD platforms, Bamboo, GitHub, GitLab, and Azure. So here you can configure the trigger. So what job and all the parameters that you want to add to that job to then be able to trigger them from within a test execution or a test plan on your issues, okay? So for example, here I have configured two options, two configurations on Jenkins CI/CD. Let's have a closer look. If I edit this configuration, you will see that you will have to say, okay, give a name, all the details of your build, so the job name, the API token, the username, the password, your instance, and you just save. And the configuration then can be activated or disabled. Okay. What does this mean? I have here two active versions. If I go back into the issues and I go, for example, into a test plan, you will see a new option here that manage and will allow you to quickly trigger that job. So, for example, on this text execution, I can click here to trigger build, and I will select app version 1. As soon as I do this, the system will trigger that job. And what this means is if I go into Jenkins, and let me just refresh this. Actually, I lost access here. So, man, sorry about that. Then, and what we will see is that I just trigger this new build here. It was just completed at 11:41. So you don't need to move away from Xray to trigger your jobs on your CI/CD platform. And then if you have that configured, all the test results from that build will be pushed automatically back to your Xray instance, okay? So your users will never need to leave your Xray project. And that's it. This is the final feature that I want to show to you guys today. I hope this was really explain. I went into a lot of detail. I know that it's a lot of information, but I think you get an overview of all the amazing features that we are now releasing.